Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
I have no idea what episode number this is. I'm guessing it's probably 21?
Yes. Or episode 43 if you're counting.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I had a good guess this time.
You had a fairly good guess. You're getting better at this. Just a little more practice, you'll get there.
I think we should just start with a clean slate and an entirely new season.
Well, yeah, because when we start over, you get to start from 1.
That sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
Yeah, and we're coming up on the end of this season,
Of course,
so...
knowing me, I'm pretty sure that I'm just going to start trying to say 1 every single episode.
Please don't do that. Give us a little bit more credit than that.
I can't. I'm not that good. So, just so you guys know, as always, we are brought to you by the Southwest Animation and Gaming Expo. Again, that's going to be going down January 30th through February 1st of 2015.
That's next year.
What we really want to talk about in regards to the Southwest Animation and Gaming Expo is that we are holding a 1-year till event. And that's going on over at Relentless Gaming. If you're here in San Antonio, that's 4726 South Hackberry Street on February 1st. That's this February 1st, obviously.
This year.
This year.
Pretty much a week from when we released this episode.
The event is free, so if you're gonna come, you definitely should. Come, show up. There's free stuff to be done, like video games and tournaments and showings of animation stuff on the side of a building. Like, that'll be pretty cool, right?
And vendors. Vendors are cool.
Yeah, vendors, like, shoot, if you're a vendor, you should, like, message us on Facebook or something, because you can set up for free if you bring your own table. Like, that's cool, too.
Yes.
So, yeah, spread the word about that. I promise.
1 week.
I promise it's cool. It's like 1 week away. It's gonna be cool. Anyway, I don't have any clue what's going on.
You can ask me what's going on. That's what you usually do.
Yeah, but I only do that because I don't know what else to say.
Well, I actually have something this week.
Oh, well then tell me what's going on.
I'm mad.
Oh, why are you mad?
Well, you know, putting it out there a little bit personal, I'm not a rich man. I'm not a very time-friendly man. I've got a lot of stuff to do. It's a very busy time in my life right now.
Okay, yes, many of us are adults, yes.
Yes, you know, you got adult things you got to take care of. You got payments to make. You've got places to be, like work and social things.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
And as a result, you don't have the option of going to places where you can meet the cast of Doctor Who.
Oh, is that all?
Well, yeah, because, like, I'm here in San Antonio, and in 2 weeks, on the same day, the weekend of the 8th in February, up in Irving, they're having a comic convention, and Karen Gillan's going to be up there. At the same time, over in New Orleans, they're having a comic convention, and they got Matt Smith. And I can't go to either one, because it's too short notice, and I'm dang near broke.
Okay.
I'm mad. If I'd known far enough ahead of time, I'd have tried to go.
I bet you would have.
Man, there's, like, no support from you. Like, you don't feel my pain.
I really don't, because I can't. I can't. No
like,
matter how
don't you get excited over anybody showing up anywhere?
Yeah, but not when they're Doctor Who related, because no matter
I'm
how much I try...
I'm talking about for you specifically. Who is it that you fan over, like, oh my god, I gotta go see them?
Well, Nobuo Uematsu, but I've seen him 3 or 4 times now.
Okay, other than Nobuo. See, like, you don't even have the excitement. Where's the passion?
I'm sorry, it's really difficult for me to get really excited about very many guests anymore. It's really, really difficult. Like, my life is not made or broken by the appearance of a guest at a particular...
I'm not saying mine is made or broken, I'm just saying it'd be friggin' awesome.
I don't even get heartbroken over that. The only thing I would get heartbroken over is if I can't go to the Star Wars Celebration, and that is an event at a whole. Like, my whole weekend does not hinge on the appearance of a singular human being at said event. The whole event has got to be good for me to care to go to it.
Yeah, but that just ends up making me sound really shallow.
No, it's just I'm not you, and I'm not like most other people either. I know a ton of people are like, I can't wait to go and meet said guest and get their autograph and their photograph. to me, like, that's just not nearly as important. It really isn't.
Yeah, but for a lot of people, it's very important that they meet, even converse, maybe even take a picture with somebody whose work had a large impact on their lives and enjoy the material that they put out.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like I've accomplished one of the very, very, very few names that I would have to check off. I've talked to him and gotten his autograph twice already, Nobuo, and so, like, I don't feel like I have that goal anymore.
What about Conan O'Brien?
Somewhat, yeah. It felt pretty good just being able to go to his live tour, which he will never do again, likely. Like, that was a one-time only sort of a deal, and all he knows is television. So...
Well, it kind of fits in, considering some of the topics we're going to get into tonight.
That's very true. In the case of, like, Matt Smith, like, how much does it cost to even so much as walk up and talk to him?
Well, see, here's the other part that I'm mad about. It's one thing that, okay, I can't afford to make the trip. It's another thing entirely when, for some people, yeah, you have to have a premium charge to get a photograph or get an autograph. And... yeah, it's a harsh reality for some people like myself who started in anime conventions where more often than not the guest doesn't charge.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, you go on to comic book conventions and more mainstream, I guess now, conventions like, you know, comic book conventions or even San Diego Comic-Con, and you kind of have to pay a premium.
That's not new. None of that is new.
No, I'm not saying it's new.
Like...
It can be new to people who weren't aware that that's how it's done.
Uh-huh.
Like, I remember in specific, I went to Dragon Con a couple of years back at the height of when Heroes was popular, and I met Hayden Panettiere, and I had to pay, like, I think it was $30 or $40 to get her autograph. You know, and I had her sign my copy of Season 1, the DVDs. I still have those. But for people like Matt Smith and Karen Gillan, you know, fresh off, you know, this past season, Karen Gillan, I think, she's charging, let me make sure I'm getting this right, $40 for an autograph, $55 for a picture with her. Matt Smith, on the other hand, it's $99 for an autograph and $99 for a picture.
See, like that's the thing. If I thought that it would have cost me anything to go up and meet Nobuo, I'm not so sure I would have ever done it. Like, that's just a difference between you and me, what level of importance... like, to be able to pay to walk up to somebody and say how much of an influence they are, because you have to realize that otherwise you probably will never get the opportunity to do it.
Right, but by that same token, it's two different realms there. Nobuo's in the world of game music, where, you know, his work has been out there for a while, and he's a lot more accessible, whereas these people are fresh off one of the most watched television shows right now, so this is the time that they would be able to charge such a premium. Maybe those numbers will go down over the years, but right now this is like the peak.
I feel like for Nobuo, now is his time for a premium, because you're absolutely right. It's a game realm, like, you are talking two vastly different mediums. Vastly different mediums. It's like apples and oranges, no comparison. And to be recognized for your musical credentials, especially when Nobuo started off making music in like 1985, 1986, and then to be able to build a library over the course of video game history in which you are using different video game console platforms that all use different sound cards, and then you build this library, and then you branch off into other things, and you become this really well-renowned composer. Yeah, it's completely different than maybe once or twice having composed some bleeps and bloops. You will never be known. You would never be known until you've done something over and over and over again. In the case of Matt Smith, all he had to do was be Doctor Who, and that's it.
Yeah, but that's a pretty large charge right there.
Sure, it's a pretty large charge, and that's exactly why I'm telling you these are two completely different things.
Yeah, but it's also the fact that, as far as, you know, location is concerned, they're close enough in proximity to me to where I feel like, dang it, it's just out of reach.
I get that. That's
really where I'm coming from with that.
I do get that. Just realize I don't share a burning passion to get to some place to see a person nearly as badly as you do.
I'm not saying, like, I'm gonna go, like, forget all my responsibilities and just grab the next megabus I can out to New Orleans or Irving. I'm just saying...
You thought about it, though. You had that conversation with me.
No, I'm just saying I considered it for a second, but then, of course, rationality won out.
Uh-huh.
But that's just where I'm at. I can still be a little mad.
Yeah, I understand. I kind of understand.
Yeah, let's just get to the show.
Okay, so we do have some other topics that we do want to talk about. For one, this is something that I've been waiting for a long time. The founder of the Ultra Arcade, or the Ultracade, MAME-style cabinet is finally getting a prison sentence, and I'll describe more about that story a little later on.
Just to follow up with a couple of other things that we talked about before, there's been a lot of news in regards to the next movie from DC, supposedly called Batman vs. Superman. There's been a lot of developments, and we're going to go over those. And
finally, it's interesting to note now, coming out of GamePolitics.com, that Conan O'Brien's comedic segment, Clueless Gamer, has been accepting paid offers from video game companies to get their video games featured on his show. And we'll talk more about that a little later, too.
As far as follow-up goes, we've got a bit of news. It's not small news by any means in relation to the next line of Star Wars movies. Discussions have been made public about what exactly is going to happen with the canon of these next movies coming out and how that relates to the expanded universe. Quotes have been coming in specifically from the head of I guess Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, who's been making comments that Disney will pretty much have fair judgment as to what fits and what doesn't anymore, so that the movies are still the hierarchy. They're still what is number one in canon, and they'll decide from there whether or not certain books, novels, comic books, what have you, fit in.
What I would still hope is that they take into consideration the fact that all of these other different mediums, books, comic books, video games, what have you, have on large been considered canon, Star Wars canon, for a very, very long time. And so what I would hope is that they would largely put that into consideration when creating these films. I don't necessarily believe that that's what they'll do. It's just my wish that that's what they would do.
Well, in saying that, you also have to take into account, in a lot of cases with these books and games and what have you, a lot of the events and stories that are told kind of contradict one another in terms of timing.
From time to time, yeah. Although at the same time, I think a lot of people in the expanded universe, people who, many authors, and especially anyone who ever worked with LucasArts, for the most part, really appreciated many of the authors and many of these different storylines that had been created over time. Yeah, there's been times here and there where continuity got, cross-wired.
Well, I'm thinking about it too. Like, one of my favorite storylines was the graphic novels that were Dark Legacy, where basically Luke gets brought over to the dark side, and that, of course, happens right after, Return of the Jedi. Well, now with Episode 7 coming out, whatever happens in Episode 7 is canon, but that could negate what happened in Dark Legacy, which is one of my favorite stories.
Now, I kind of always thought that it was bogus that it was ever considered that, Emperor Palpatine, came back from the dead, but not really, and then Luke
kind of like a ghost, but he inhabited body. Well, no, that's still like a ghost.
Yeah, so, that really bothered me. There's really no need to go and bring Palpatine back into anything, I don't think. If you ask me if they did away with that, I'd be alright with it. But, it would still, no matter what happens in the movie, it's very likely that something is going to get overwritten. Very, very easily.
But you've got, fan-favorite characters like Jaina Solo and Mara Jade that have, basically, at this point, until we hear something official, they've got their heads on the chopping block. They might be next.
Possible. Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to be, a lot of people who are very hardcore fans of the expanded universe are going to be pretty upset if they get cut. And it said, all this fiction that exists about them is no longer relevant.
Well, then all you can do is call it, now rather than expanded universe, alternate universe? That would be horrible to have to make that transition. Man, Wikipedia is gonna have, like, the worst reaping ever.
I know, it'd be like crashing a moon into Wikipedia.
Oh.
Wait, does that even count anymore? That's on the chopping block.
Cause figure this, right? Now they're saying they want episode 7 to be a nice, lovely send-off of these characters.
Of Luke, Leia, and Han, yeah.
Yeah, but what's Han without Chewie? Either way, eventually Han has to be without Chewie, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they would ever address, like, Kashyyyk going boom with a moon. I don't know if they would do it.
Because for a lot of people, that's like a real event.
Well, one, it's a real event, and then for a whole bunch of other people, that's also like, man, you wrote the biggest crap turd in all of the expanded universe. Like, the worst way you could have possibly taken Chewie out. I don't know, arguably, it's kind of a badass way to be taken out. Being hit by a moon. But I think it's just that people are so attached to Chewie that they were like, what have you done?
Yeah.
So.
But then again, even taking that away, that has effects one way or the other. It's people like, oh, good, you cleaned up the turd, and other people like, no, that was the best way you could have taken him out. Like, it took a whole moon to take out Chewie. And you took that away from us.
Well, to be fair, it took out a whole lot more than just Chewie.
Yeah, but Chewie was the one that mattered. I mean, come on, really.
Yeah, well, let's just get this straight, alright? Dash Rendar got all the Bothans killed. Alright, that's what I'm saying right now.
Most people don't even know that. Most people barely remember Dash Rendar. We remember Dash Rendar.
Most people don't know what a Bothan is, so...
You, of course, having that famous line, you know... You saying many Bothans died for this.
You say I have that famous line.
No, the line that comes after it, of we have no idea.
We have no idea.
Yeah, that was your line.
Yeah, that
you
was
saying you didn't know what a Bothan was, even though you do
but
know
the truth is, I know exactly what a Bothan is, and I also know that Dash Rendar, super awesome, renegade pilot...
That's never drawn the same way twice.
Yeah, but has an awesome video game. He killed a bunch of Bothans. You guys all heard that in Return of the Jedi, but you didn't know the circumstances. Well, I'm sorry. Badass Dash Rendar got the Bothans killed. Look it up. It's fact. And if Episode 7 erases that fact, well...
Well, because technically that's...
They should introduce Dash Rendar into Episode 7. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but that would be... In order to do that, you would have to, like, legitimize all of Shadows of the Empire, and I don't think they're going to do that much work.
Maybe not yet. They're still planning on all these spin-off movies.
Yeah, but I doubt Dash Rendar is anywhere on the priority. Like, it's like Boba Fett, Han Solo... Well, not even
Boba Fett going after Dash Rendar! I'm telling you!
But that happened in freaking Shadows of the Empire, or vice versa.
Yes! They can make a movie out of it.
The closest we're going to get is a video game.
Which they did!
Speaking of video games, let's use that to go into our first category.
No, don't segue when I'm not ready for a segue.
Ba-dum-bum.
I don't even... What am I talking about right now? Oh, okay. So like, yeah, this happened. I'm sorry. I've been waiting for this day because no one will agree with me. But I'm gonna say it anyway.
You can start. Go ahead.
I don't like MAME cabinets, and I don't like, specifically, Ultracade, which is similar to MAME. It's a different chain of... It's a multi-game system, okay? These are arcade cabinets that have, like, 80 bajillion different arcade games programmed into them, and then you go up to it and you pay the price to play one singular game, and you play until you're all dead, and then you go and you choose another game if you want, and then you pay for that game. So anyway, Ultracade...
It's basically an emulator in an arcade cabinet.
Exactly, and this Ultracade system was created in, I believe, 2002, by a man by the name of David R. Foley. And it's got so many games in it. So many friggin' games. In fact, down at our local arcade, down at Diversions, they actually have, like, 4 of these Ultracades.
No, they've got, like, 2.
They, at one point, had, like, 4 of them lined up in a row.
We were just there this past week.
I was too busy playing DDR to notice the Ultracade cabinets.
But that's not to say you haven't played them.
Of course I've played them. Yeah.
I've played them.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that I would far rather just have a Neo Geo cabinet with Puzzle Bobble in it. Because Neo Geo is a far better.
Well, I can't find a cabinet that plays Captain Commando anywhere else.
Well, see, that's the problem. I realize the need for them, but it doesn't make me dislike them because they are big, giant, illegal bootleg machines. And you know what I can't stand the most is one person making lots and lots of money off of a bootleg. That's what I really can't stand. And so that's exactly what this individual had been doing for years and years and years and years, until about 2009, and a grand jury got him on 35 counts of theft, all these counterfeit games placed onto the Ultracade. He pled guilty in 2012. Well, finally, we're finding that he's getting a 2-year prison term. So finally, justice comes to this. I know.
Can you really call that justice, a 2-year term?
Well, hey, I figure he hasn't been living the high life the last 2 years anyway, ever since pleading guilty.
Yeah, but even then, he hasn't been in prison.
Well, he
and
will
even then,
be.
2-year sentence? I mean, come on, with the current state of things, he can get out on good behavior in half that.
Well, then maybe next time he'll learn not to make an arcade system that'll...
Or somebody in that position could learn to do it smarter. Because think about it, in the world we live in now, yeah, he was going through eBay selling these game packs to people. Now we have Craigslist. It's a lot easier to do this stuff with a lot less red tape.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Really, eBay barely has any red tape involved at all.
Yeah, but you can go through even less red tape, and granted there's a lot more guesswork involved, but somebody looking to do this or even move around these cabinets could still very easily do it.
Because, like, let me at least bring up this point here. I understand the need for these games to stay alive that are on these cabinets, right? Like, where else are you gonna go where you actually find the Mega Man arcade game?
Where else are you gonna play Joust?
Well, you can play Joust right here at home on your PlayStation.
No, but I mean like classic Joust.
Yeah, classic Joust.
Do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
Oh, why didn't you tell me?
I have it on a PlayStation bundle full of nothing but really old...
Well, because these cabinets, they carry, like, what, 40, 50 titles, something like that?
Something along those lines. But the point of the matter is that, like I'll also compare this to bootleg anime DVDs. Like, sometimes you go to half-price books and you find all these bootleg DVDs, and sometimes they're of things that, oh, this isn't licensed over here at all, or, oh, I can get the whole dang series for super cheap. And... you know, it's illegal, and there's a part of me that would feel bad going after it, but only a part of me, I guess. But then what really makes me mad is that somebody else made money off of it, who actually had nothing to do with producing the games, licensing the games, getting those games, you know, going from place to place, and none of that money goes back into the hands of the people who created said titles. If it was a matter of... this guy, you know, did the work that it took to actually get the licenses for each one of these games, and then he sold them to these individual arcade locations, then whatever.
But with a lot of these titles, the different ROMs that are in this cabinet, like, where are those licenses gonna go to games and companies that don't even really exist anymore? I mean,
oh, I know.
Mega Man's gonna go straight to Capcom, and Capcom's got their money. I'm not saying you take money from them. I'm just saying for that particular game in specific, the arcade version, they're not making any other money off that.
No, but the point I'm really making is that it's really scummy to make money off of something that you really have no involvement in.
Well, I mean, I do get that. I do get that, but with a lot of this stuff, it's... aren't some of these titles free domain?
Yeah, a lot of them would be, which is another reason why I think it's scummy. Because you're basically paying money for something that nobody should have to pay for. Which is part of what I feel about bootlegs. It's what a lot of fan subbers feel about their work.
Admittedly, I hear what you say on that, because there's some...
No fan subber wants their fan subs sold. They all want them to be free domain forever.
But the line of thinking that goes into that in specific is this idea that, well, I want to watch this more conveniently. Somebody already put it on a disc, so what I'm paying for isn't so much the fan subs themselves, just the opportunity to watch them on, say, my DVD player.
Are you kidding me? How much do you see bootleg DVDs go for? You really think that only covers the cost of burning the disc and shipping it to you?
Well, that's where it starts. Unfortunately, no, you're right. It does extend on to the really, really bad, and these are the telltale signs, are those very crappy printed out covers on, like, just loose leaf paper, or not loose leaf paper, but just, Xerox paper. Usually the pictures are all over the place from the original cover, and then bad spelling errors and things like that.
Because take a look at the price. Do you see the price on this Ultracade cabinet in this picture in this news article?
Actually, I'm looking at that. Is that from Pinballs?
$3,000.
Is that from Pinballs?
It does look like it's from Pinballs here in Austin, actually. Yeah. I
thought I recognized the logo.
It's hard to really tell, but it does look like it's from Pinballs.
Well, then, what would you say?
$3,000. That is ludicrous for a bootleg machine.
So then, which part is worse? The dude having done it, or somebody taking the cabinet, like we're seeing here in this picture, and then charging again?
Both are kind of bad. I mean, I would assume at this point, once it's in your hands, then there's nothing that government can do about it. Like, it's out there. What they really want to stop is the guy who's, like, the dealer.
Right.
The source material. But if the guy was selling these cabinets for even anywhere close to approximately that price, that is really scummy to me.
Then are you saying that there's a price that you could sell it for that you could rationalize?
The price of crafting the cabinet, perhaps. And even then, this cabinet, I don't know if an individual person, like, made that, or if that is just a hollowed out old cabinet that got a repaint job. Like, that's really the only thing I can imagine is, like, you can see that work went into the body of the cabinet. That is what I would pay money for, is the body of the cabinet. I wouldn't pay money for the mechanics. I wouldn't pay money for, this TV screen in there, and I most certainly wouldn't pay money for the games, especially since most of those games now no longer are licensed to anybody.
Right, but see, that's part of the, I guess I'd say, counter-argument to it, is that how much can you say the cabinet is worth?
You know how much my cabinet is worth?
You got it for free.
Yeah.
You won that cabinet.
Yeah, I won that cabinet because I got a whole bunch of people to spend money at an event, and so they gave me that cabinet. But do you know how much a cabinet like that is worth? At best, $300 to $400, not $3,000.
So
a basic wooden frame cabinet, which, look at it, it's basically exactly this.
Right.
There is absolutely no reason why that is worth $3,000.
But then again, it can be argued back, like, if it's worth $3,000 and say you were to sell it, what's to say somebody's saying, oh, well, that's how much you're charging for the ROM inside?
That's exactly my point. That's probably mostly for the ROM inside. Because
then it becomes circular at that point, is what I'm saying. You can't tell what you're actually paying for.
I can tell you what you're paying for. You're paying for a $300, maybe $500 cabinet because it's all nice and shiny and smooth. And look at all that fancy paint job. Woo! And the rest of it has got to be the ROM because it holds so many games, and somebody who doesn't know any better about licensing is just going to be like, oh, look at all these games that it comes with, and they don't know whether or not the dude actually licensed all those games, especially if they originally purchased this Ultracade cabinet before 2009. They didn't know dude was dealing shady.
Well, no, they wouldn't have, but at the same time, really all this does is stop, like you said, the dealer. That's not to say that any of the games that are in that cabinet haven't already been downloaded by thousands, if not millions of people.
Shoot, at least nobody was making money off of them.
Yeah, but just like you said, the people who made the games aren't getting their money.
No, and that's terrible as well. Either way, it's not good. But when you have to pick a lesser of two evils, I would much prefer that nobody, I would hope to God no one downloaded a ROM and paid for it.
Uh-huh.
That would be scummy, god-awful rotten for somebody to be making money off of, hey, I'm hosting this ROM file, you better pay up a premium, you know?
I don't know that there are any sites like that left anywhere. I mean, there might be. I don't know. It's been a while since...
But that's what I'm saying. This guy was the dealer, and you're paying a couple $1,000 for these ROMs. And that's not cool.
Well, if it makes you feel better, seeing this story, at least he got his.
Yay. I do feel better, because I've actually been following that story of the Ultracade cabinets for a few years now.
Alright. Well, if that sentence is completely carried to term, you'll probably tell us about it.
In 2 years.
In 2 years.
Alright.
Speaking of stuff that's happened in 2 years from now... See, that was a good segue.
Uh-huh!
It was just released not too long ago, the news that probably having to deal with all the production issues that a movie would have to deal with, much less a movie that is looking to be a blockbuster. The Batman vs. Superman, and of course we haven't confirmed that that's the title, that's just what everybody calls it at this point. Batman vs. Superman has been pushed back to 2016. It was going to be released July 17th of next year, but now it's going to be released May 6th of the following year. That's 2016, and that's slated to go up against an unnamed Marvel movie. They haven't decided what movie that's going to be in that particular spot, but, you have a kind of fair idea of what that's going to be.
Right.
But this comes with a bunch of other news that people have been talking about in regards to this movie. Now, next year was supposed to be the year for movies, because you would have Avengers 2, you'd have Batman vs. Superman, you'd have the next Jurassic Park, all these major tentpole movies that make the studios money, and one of them just pulled out. So that takes away from the box office for Hollywood in general, but really what I'm more worried about is, what does this say about the movie itself?
You know what? I'm glad, okay? Because there was nothing. We knew nothing. And anybody who was getting all up in arms and getting all heated about all these little details here, about, oh, this isn't the right Batman, this isn't the right Wonder Woman. We haven't seen a script. We haven't seen photos of anybody in suits. We haven't seen any sort of shots from locations. Nobody is filming.
Actually, to be fair, just today, they released pictures of the shooting locations for some of these, for some scenes from this movie. Specifically, they're up in Michigan, where they're going to be shooting this movie.
I mean, I can't imagine that just knowing shooting locations would mean anything to me about this movie.
Well, of course, shooting locations is one thing, but that means nothing when we don't know that in context to what the script calls for it. Yes, that's exactly right. And then on top of that, we're not sure, like you said, people are going back and forth, well, we don't know what the suits look like. I remember just earlier this week, I had somebody try and link me to pictures of what they said, oh, these are leaked action figures of what are going to come from the movie. And it's like, there's no way they would let that out now.
Cause I'm just sitting here, my mind blown, here we were expecting this to be done in a year, right? And it's how? I was terrified.
No, I was too, admittedly.
I was thinking, this is gonna be such a rush hack job, there is no way. But them pushing it back, thank God.
No, yeah, because now you can see, well, hey, this is WB talking, well, hey, maybe we're a little too ambitious. We should probably give this some time, flesh out what the script's gonna be, understand why we have Wonder Woman in this script at all.
I feel like when they made the announcement, it was just they're making superhero movies over there at Marvel. We can do that too! Hurry, somebody slap together a logo! Release it! And then...
I'm not gonna lie, that that feels more and more like that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because when you look at everything that was going on, like I've been saying, Marvel has been dominating. I really think the idea for this came out of fear, and it's going to be very hard to convince me otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're committed to this idea, and they're going to do it. They're going to do everything they can, pour every resource they can into this movie. And of course, we can't talk about Batman vs. Superman without talking about, Wonder Woman, who's been cast, Gal Gadot. Well, she has signed on to a 3-picture deal. And according to that covers this movie coming out, but that should also cover, reportedly, a solo movie for Wonder Woman.
You see? I knew!
Yes. And the proposed Justice League movie that's supposed to be coming down the road.
Okay, so now we know that it can't be... So it shouldn't be possible that this Batman versus Superman thing will eventually just kind of morph itself into a Justice League movie behind our backs?
See, I was thinking that that's where they might go with it, because when you're adding really the core 3 members of the Justice League, you can't just call it Batman versus Superman. I've been saying that. Mm-hmm. You could call it World's Finest if it was just those 2 guys, but when you add in Wonder Woman, that changes the dynamic completely.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't just be about them, and you can't just limit the title to just them, because that weakens Wonder Woman as a character, and a lot of people have seen, especially this week with Justice League War already coming out on iTunes, and then the hard copies coming out on February 4th, Wonder Woman, very much there, just like it was in the comic, is shown as a very headstrong, can take care of herself, honest-to-goodness female role model.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I like about the animated features, is that they display her as such, and that's what people want to see her as, is this nice, strong female role model that really isn't entirely there currently in movies. I mean, yeah, we've got characters here and there. You've got your Ripleys, you've got your Charlie's Angels, but Wonder Woman, she's like the pinnacle. She's supposed to be the pinnacle of that ideal.
And it's like, everybody knows her, so doesn't it seem weird that we haven't pushed for her in movie form harder over the years?
That's been the argument, left and right. And admittedly, I'm glad that there's even talk that she will get her solo movie, but like I've been saying before, that should have already come. That movie should have been made way before you thought about really what it feels like shoehorning her into this movie. Whatever it is. I mean, of course, that remains to be seen whether or not that's
again, that's
shoehorning.
really hard to say whether or not she's shoehorned when we don't have a clue what the script looks like.
But at least what we can tell is there's strong evidence that 2 of those movies are going to be, one a solo Wonder Woman movie, and the other will be Justice League. Along those lines, there was talk earlier this week that Stephen Amell, who plays Green Arrow on Arrow there on CW, was in talks with the studios to make an appearance. Mm-hmm. But since later on in this week, he's retracted that statement, saying he has not directly had studio-level discussions. But I think it'd be interesting, and a lot of people have been wondering about this, whether or not the CW series, both Arrow and now the upcoming Flash, would have any involvement in the DC movie universe. And I think that's a smart move. Is it copying Marvel? Absolutely. But is it smart to do? Absolutely.
Well, that's because Marvel's got the formula down pat. It's not a stupid formula, it's a good formula. To actually start to better build your movie network as if it were a comic book network, a comic book universe where this title can stand alone, but you get the bigger picture if you go and you reach out for these different releases.
Right. Because you build a whole universe, and again, that's what this is all about. That's what it's about with Marvel, that's what it's about with Disney and Lucasfilm and Star Wars, and that's what it should be about in DC, is universe building. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you build brick by brick. You don't just shove this thing out there like a pre-built house.
Right.
We want to know that care was taken putting into the foundation.
This is not the Palm Arbor Homes.
Yeah.
Palm Harbor?
Palm Harbor.
This is not the Palm Harbor Homes of comic book movie franchises. At least it better not be. Because I was very concerned at first that it could be the Palm Harbor Homes. I never thought that term before. Now I'm thinking that. But it's exactly what I was thinking without knowing I was thinking that phrase.
No, but I hear you on that. So, like we said, production is supposed to start within the next month and a half, so then we can start hearing about what the script is calling for. I mean, as best as we know right now, we just know a little bit about Batman's characterization, that's it.
Right.
And even then, we've only heard a little bit about what Batman's costume looks like. And you think... I think it's really funny. Everybody who's talking about the costume is saying the exact same things, like, oh, it's a complete reinvention. Kevin Smith said it, Jennifer Garner, who's Ben Affleck's wife, said it, and it's like, well, you guys must have signed NDAs. The studio knows you guys are that close to the actor playing Batman. They respect your opinions, of course, and, why wouldn't you share what your costume looks like with your wife? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that really feels like the studio forcing, this is the thing you're going to say about the costume until we reveal it.
Right.
But that doesn't say one way or the other what it's going to look like.
Exactly.
So we can't trust anything until we have solid
Especially
proof.
if it actually is a complete reinvention. We don't have a clue.
And even then, what do they mean by that? Is it purple now?
Well, it's not like it's never been purple before.
Well, just like once, but it was the 60s. It was a weird time.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like it's never been purple before.
Right, but until we have solid stuff, people, when you're reading this stuff, take it with a grain of salt. Unless we've got, like, official releases, just hold back on the reins a little bit. We're gonna get the info, we just gotta wait it out.
Uh-huh.
And that's really what it comes down to on that in specific.
I really wish people this whole time would have calmed down, waited a little longer instead of jumping the gun when we didn't even have a script.
It just speaks to the weight of these characters that people got in a fury so fast because, one, a Batman vs. Superman movie people have been waiting for their whole lifetime to see. People not even imagining that it could even be done.
Right.
And then on top of that, you hear about Batman vs. Superman, and then you add Wonder Woman to the mix. That's a whole nother audience of comic book readers wanting to get in on that frenzy. So yeah, of course, tensions are going to run high with this crowd. And it's to be expected, and that just means WB has to put out a better product if they're really going to, one, fool me into thinking they didn't just pull this out of their butts, and two, live up to the expectations that most people out there have.
That's true.
That's a lot of weight there, so... WB, we got our eyes on you. Don't screw up.
I guess. Don't screw up, I think, is the sentiment you should give everyone in order to motivate them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Just don't screw up. Finally, we do want to move on to one more topic. This was featured over on GamePolitics.com, and it's really interesting to me in particular, as we kind of brought up Conan O'Brien for like a split second. And he, of course, does his Clueless Gamer segments over on his show Conan from time to time.
Honestly, I love that segment.
I really find it funny too, and I realize, of course, he states up front in every single episode, I'm not a gamer, I don't even especially like video games, which I have to be honest, as Conan was my very first celebrity crush, like, that sort of breaks my heart a little bit. And yet, his comedy's just so funny. Like, I've always...
At the same time, does that give you that little bit in your mind, in your quote-unquote Kalen fantasy world, like, that means I can teach him?
No, he very clearly doesn't seem open to learning at all.
I'm kidding. Because,
I don't think I've ever had that fantasy world.
No, because honestly, to be fair, when you look at his stuff, you can tell how much, in a lot of cases, he just doesn't care about the story of a game, what it took to make the game. Like his friend there who's helping him get guided through the game, he's just throwing out information about the game left and right, and Conan's like, whatever.
I feel like let's say I were to have gotten onto King of the Nerds, right? And then they were to have put me on with an interview with Conan, because that happened last season. Somebody from King of
Celeste.
Yeah, somebody from King of the Nerds went and interviewed with Conan. Like, if Conan wanted to have a conversation with me about why I like something as weird as games and stuff, I would have actually probably gotten a little upset with him. Like, do you even understand that this is a medium, a storytelling medium, just like any other medium, like the movie industry. In fact, it makes money that equals the amount of money that Hollywood makes now, so it is equally as full of revenue, blah blah blah, and I would have gotten mad, to be honest with you.
Like he doesn't understand how much money the industry makes.
Yeah, I would have been really upset, which would have broken my heart even farther, because this person is influential to me in one way or another.
It's funny that you bring up him not being aware of how much money the industry makes.
Yeah, this is kind of where, I'm sorry this took so long to get into, but the point of this is that apparently TBS, or perhaps Conan's show in particular, not just TBS, they have been known to accept money in order to take certain video game titles and then give them airtime, basically. Specifically in the case of, what was that Halloween segment where he...
where the fans voted on like 3 different games for Conan to play in the dark?
Yeah, one of them was Slender Man. That one apparently, I think he did for free.
Outlast? Was that one of them?
Outlast was the one that got paid to be shown. And Outlast, notably, was the one out of the 3 that he played that time that he actually really seemed to like. That game, the game production studio paid $35,000 for its game to make an appearance on
That's a bit of scratch
Clueless
there.
Gamer. Yeah, it is quite a bit of scratch. Like, that number kind of shocked me a little bit. Now, really, they say that, like, these aren't reviews, you know, they're really not, it's just a comedy segment, and supposedly Conan doesn't even see the game until he sits down to do the segment, and Aaron Blair, like, walks him through what this thing is, and he's really just describing it for the sake of the audience, because it's really clear that Conan doesn't give a hoot, you know?
Right.
And I really do think it's funny, but it is a matter of, like, at what point do you have to disclose to the public that you are exchanging money in order for this game to appear on your program?
Because it would be one thing entirely if he was just playing games like, he's walking through Walmart or GameStop or wherever with Aaron, and he's like, that game, let's play that. And, you know, it's just matter of random choice, versus a studio or company coming up to the brass at TBS and saying, hey, you know, slide bag of money across the table, here's a game, do what you want. And then, lo and behold, next Clueless Gamer, that game's being talked about, and, you know, heaven forbid, the review is somewhat favorable.
Well, the thing is, supposedly these game studios, they, of course, really want Conan to do whatever it is that he wants with these games, so I've heard. And really, the game companies are aware that Conan's not a gamer. He's very clearly not a gamer. He's not doing a very good job at it. He doesn't go very far. He can't talk about game mechanics. He can't hardly talk about voice acting. He barely gets across that he likes graphics. Like,
but it's a matter of publicity is what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's really all it seems like, is that it's a matter of I am paying so that this game gets seen. And in that sense, how is it different from any other sort of pay to get advertised?
Well, see, there's the difference between...
Excuse me.
Really, it's the matter of a positive sort of spin on it, a positive review. Because if it's just a review, you know, we have... really, if it's just for showing the game off, I should say, then that's just a commercial. You can pay for ad space for a commercial. You can say something as simple as, hey, this show is brought to you by Pepsi, or we're brought to you by Nintendo, or we're brought to you by Square Enix. But
Conan will occasionally say that he actually did or did not enjoy his experience tooling around with such and such game, even though he clearly has no idea what he's doing.
But I'm saying, if it's the case where he was paid to not just play the game, but possibly, and I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just putting it out there, that paid for a favorable review, that comes across as payola.
Yeah. And
that's not cool.
Of course, these days it's not illegal, but it is highly discouraged, and of course, a gaming crowd is always like, oh, we don't want paid reviews, we want all these, as much unbiased in our reviews as humanly possible. And some people are just still saying it's still a sales method, whether or not it's a joke. And that it's unethical, especially if you're
I
not...
think it's very unethical.
Especially if you're not forthcoming with the information that a number of these games were paid for their advertising.
I mean, heck, you know a couple of reviewers too, and they get it's a very negative connotation whether or not they were said to have taken payola for a positive review.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of anyone that I personally associate with who would dare dream of taking money rather than giving their honest opinion on a game. Whether they think that helps or hinders them. They would just far rather take the credibility that comes along with, hey, I told you the absolute truth. Because you know what? That's what people appreciate the most.
Right.
I think my only question is that really what people are watching Conan for?
Well, no, really, I guess if you take it down to brass tacks, they're watching for an entertaining segment. And not an actual, oh, Conan is the utmost authority on Tomb Raider.
Clearly not. He had never known who Lara Croft was ever before that, and all he ever cared about was what camera angle he could look at her at, and only cared whether or not she got stabbed through the throat while getting washed downstream.
Admittedly, that was pretty funny.
It was. See, the segment's just funny. I'm upset that it's not up front when someone's been paying to have their video game promoted by Conan on Clueless Gamer. And yet at the same time, it's like, how can I be that mad when clearly this really isn't a real review? I could not possibly have based an opinion on a purchase of Resident Evil 5 based on Clueless Gamer. There was no way in hell I was gonna do that. I would never make a purchase of any of the games that he has played, ever, based solely on anything I saw Conan play. Ever.
Now to counteract that, if Injustice had indeed come up with a downloadable skin to play as the Flaming Sea, would you have gotten that game based off knowing off of Clueless Gamer that you could do that?
I really don't know. I have to be honest, I really don't know.
Because at that point, there's always a point where they can get you.
That's not a review, though. This is a screenshot of a skin. That would have popped up anywhere.
But if it had come from there?
Why would it have come from there? You would have been able to go to PlayStation Network and then see, I can purchase the Clueless Gamer, or the Flaming Sea skin for Injustice? I can do that? I wouldn't need to watch Clueless Gamer to get that information.
But so long as it wasn't a positive review sort of thing, that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
I mean, really, there's not hardly any sort of review anything going on hardly in Clueless Gamer.
Well, then again, at the very least, it's still marketing, because it's still
it's absolutely marketing.
Marketing to a crowd that, again, may not be intrinsically a gamer crowd, but looking at it from Conan's angle might make it appealing to someone.
It's kind of funny. I feel like Conan's audience is younger than he... maybe he knows how young they are. And actually, Conan always passed himself off as the nerdy, geeky type up to a certain point. I feel like about to where he hit TBS and he felt like he didn't care anymore about anything. After having been kicked off of NBC. And, the younger crowd, the slightly nerdier crowd, had followed him all the way up until that point. So now
we were part of that crowd.
Yeah, so now he's got, all of these really weird, nerdy kind of people who follow him, and the truth of the matter is that Conan doesn't know anything of what's going on in comics, in games, in anything nerdy, to be honest. It's a little heartbreaking to think about at this point, but really, he's not one of us. He's an entertainer when it really comes down to it.
So you can't hold him to that same standard.
No, you absolutely can't.
So then, can you get mad at him or even TBS for taking the money to feature a game?
How can I? It's advertising. It's advertising just like you would pay a network to advertise for your product in a commercial.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So basically,
to me, I feel like that's all it is. It's nothing but advertising.
So basically,
and it's not paying for a positive review.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So long as it doesn't go into the area of it's very obvious this is a positive spin that's been paid for.
Yeah.
So long as it doesn't go into that area, it's just a nice, fun segment.
That's how I feel, yes, but I still think it should be disclosed when money has exchanged hands, or has changed hands.
Just to keep things on the up and up and not, have any libel or slander come up.
Right.
Well, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
That's
that makes
my
perfect
opinion
sense.
on the subject.
You know what? I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having my back. Of course, you don't have to agree with me, so if you don't agree with me, I would like to hear about it, and maybe we can address it next week or something. That would be nice. Go ahead and leave comments. That would be cool.
Yeah, we're both on the Twitters, the Tweeties.
Yeah, the Twitters and the Tumblrs, but especially the Twitters. If you want to yell at me over Twitter, I'm at MarsGirlProd.
And I'm at Josh Knight First.
So I guess that means we're wrapping up, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good place to stop.
Okay, then let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to be back next week, and there's only going to be a couple more episodes left of this season. We're going to, what, episode 24 of this
24.
season? Alright, then we've got like another 3 episodes to go.
Maybe we'll make 24 a live one just to end it out.
Oh, probably. Okay, well, we'll talk about that later, and we'll probably tweet about it too. So, again, be following us on those Twitter handles.
And yeah, be sure to watch out for us, and then we'll let you guys know when we're having a live show.
Sounds good to me.
So until next week, this has been Beyond the Black Rims, and we'll see you guys later.
Alright, night, guys.